Have you ever wondered how the beverage of celebration, champagne, came to be? Let's rewind to the 17th century in France. The wine industry was flourishing, but there was a small hiccup, a fizzy hiccup, if you will. During this time, wine was considered a serious drink, a still liquid without the pop and fizz we associate with celebration today. But as the weather began to cool, fermentation in the wine bottles would cease, only to start again in the spring, causing an unexpected and quite frankly unwanted guest to appear in the wine: bubbles. These bubbles, they were more than just a nuisance. They were a serious problem, causing wine bottles to explode in the cellars. Imagine walking into your cellar, only to be greeted by an impromptu fireworks display of wine bottles. Now that's a party no one signed up for. Yet, as the saying goes, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And in this case, one man's explosive problem became the world's bubbly pleasure. These sparkling wines, once considered flawed, were eventually embraced. The pressure in the bottles was mastered, and the bubbles were tamed, leading to the creation of the sparkling wine we now call champagne. It's quite ironic, isn't it? A problem that once caused headaches for winemakers is now the cause of many a hangover. And that's how the problem of exploding wine bottles led to the birth of the world's most celebrated drink. Did you know that Australia once declared war on emus? Yes, you heard it right, emus, not some foreign invaders or rebellious citizens, but large, flightless birds native to Australia. Back in 1932, Western Australia was in a bit of a predicament. The Great Depression had swept through the world, and Australia was not spared. Farmers in Western Australia were struggling, trying their best to grow wheat and other crops. But as if the economic hardship wasn't enough, they faced another rather unusual problem: an emu population boom. Emus, in search of water and food, had migrated to the cultivated lands, finding the newly grown crops a perfect feast. The result? Thousands of emus rampaging through the farmlands, leaving a trail of destroyed crops in their wake. The farmers were at their wits' end, and the government, desperate for a solution, did the unthinkable. They sent in the military. Soldiers armed with machine guns were dispatched to control the emu population. But the emus proved to be elusive and remarkably resilient, shrugging off the military's attempts with what could almost be called avian arrogance. The operation was a flop, leading to public ridicule and the unfortunate label of the Great Emu War. The government eventually switched tactics, introducing a bounty system that proved more successful. But let's be honest, the emus had already made their point. So in the end, the emus won the war, proving that sometimes nature just can't be tamed. Did you ever think that the fearsome Vikings were misunderstood? Ah, the Vikings. Those notorious raiders from the north, always portrayed with horned helmets, wielding axes and wreaking havoc wherever they went. This image has been ingrained in our collective memory, painting them as ruthless invaders. However, this portrayal doesn't do justice to the depth and complexity of Viking culture. In fact, recent historical analysis and archaeological findings suggest that the Vikings were not just raiders, but also traders, explorers, and skilled craftsmen. They established trade routes extending from North America to the Middle East, navigating the seas with their advanced shipbuilding techniques. Their craftsmanship was reflected in the intricate designs of their jewelry, tools, and weapons. It's time we look beyond the stereotypical image of Vikings as mere marauders. The truth is, these Norsemen were an integral part of the cultural and economic fabric of their time. So, next time you think of a Viking, remember they were more than just warriors. What if one day you couldn't stop dancing? Sounds fun, right? Well, not for the people of Strasbourg in 1518. Picture this: the heart of the Holy Roman Empire, the city of Strasbourg, seized by a peculiar plague. Not one that brought fevers or chills, but an infectious rhythm that made people dance uncontrollably. It started with a woman named Frau Trophea who began dancing in the streets. Her movements weren't the joyful, carefree twirls of a festive gathering, but a relentless, energetic dance that lasted for days. In a week, 34 others joined her, and within a month, the number had swelled to around 400. Can you imagine an entire city held captive by an unstoppable urge to dance? The authorities were baffled, but they believed the plague was a natural disease caused by too much hot blood. So they encouraged more dancing, hoping to cure the afflicted by letting them dance the fever out. But the dance turned deadly. Many collapsed from exhaustion, heart attacks, or strokes. The plague raged on for about 2 months before it mysteriously disappeared as quickly as it had appeared. Theories range from mass hysteria to a strain of ergot fungus contamination in the food supply. Despite numerous investigations, the Dancing Plague of 1518 remains a mystery. The Dancing Plague remains one of history's strangest, unexplained phenomena. How would you like to buy the Eiffel Tower? Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But in the early 20th century, someone actually tried to sell it. Now, imagine being a con artist in the Roaring '20s. You're Victor Lustig, a man known for his charm and cunning. One day, you come up with a plan so audacious it's almost unbelievable. You decide to sell the Eiffel Tower, not just to anyone, but to scrap metal dealers. You see, back then, the Eiffel Tower was not the beloved symbol of France it is today. It was considered an eyesore by many Parisians, and there was talk of tearing it down. This gave Lustig the perfect opportunity to present himself as a government official, looking for a discreet buyer to dismantle the tower and sell it as scrap metal. Lustig managed to fool not one but two scrap metal dealers with his elaborate scheme. He even had them bid against each other, driving up the price. But as with all good things, Lustig's scheme didn't last. He was eventually caught, not for the Eiffel Tower sale, but for counterfeiting money in the United States. And so, the Eiffel Tower remained standing, a symbol of France's ingenuity and elegance. It's a good reminder that even the most audacious plans can come crashing down. So remember, if someone offers to sell you a national landmark, it's probably too good to be true.